Foreign policy is all about tough choices. One such choice awaits New Delhi. The Taliban have announced a rejig at the Indian embassy. They've recalled the sitting ambassador, this man, Farid Mamunzeh. He was appointed in 2020 by the Ashraf Ghani government. So he's not a Taliban representative. But now Kabul wants him back. They have named his replacement as well, Qadir Shah, who also works at the Indian embassy. He is currently the trade counselor, but the Taliban want to promote him. The question is, what should New Delhi do? Recognize this appointment or stick with the current ambassador? I know what you're thinking. The Taliban have named him. Why should India recognize him? It'll be like recognizing the Taliban, and you're right for asking this. But there is another piece of information you should know. The current ambassador is facing corruption charges. On Sunday, Afghan media published a letter written by Afghans based in India. They accuse the ambassador and his aides of corruption. Now, the ambassador has rejected this charge. He says it's biased and untruthful, but the Taliban are not buying it. They want the ambassador back in Kabul, so what should India do again? The Taliban's pick, Qadir Shah, says he's unbiased, that he's not linked to any party or group, meaning the Taliban. He also says he's a diplomat of the Islamic Republic and not the Islamic Emirate. The problem is, we can't be sure. Today, the Afghan embassy in India released a statement. Listen to what it says. The embassy categorically rejects the claims from an individual claiming to have taken charge of the mission at New Delhi at the behest of the Taliban. The individual has been responsible for spreading misinformation against officials of this mission. Now consider this scenario. Qadir Shah takes over the embassy in India. He decides some changes are necessary, perhaps display the Taliban's flag instead of the old one, or maybe stop helping Afghans critical of the new regime. What happens then? A Taliban flag at the embassy would be a major embarrassment for India, and it's entirely possible. The Taliban did the same with their Chinese embassy, removed the sitting ambassador and promoted a diplomat already posted there, and China accepted it. And now a Taliban flag flies over the embassy in Beijing. India should be wary of that. Such embassy rejigs may appear small, but the Taliban will go to town with it. They will spin the narrative to suit them. It's happened many times in the past 2 years. In 2022, India decided to reopen its embassy in Kabul. It was called a technical mission. But the Taliban did not see it that way. They peddled it as partial recognition by India. Something similar happened in March this year. India organized a training camp for Afghan diplomats. The Taliban was again shouting from rooftops. Do you see the problem here? The Taliban clearly want to engage with India. They need recognition from the world's largest democracy. They also need financial help for their people. Unlike the 1990s, Pakistan cannot help them. Russia is stuck in Ukraine, which leaves the world's most dangerous loan shark, China. So the Taliban is keen on Indian support. The embassy reshuffle should be seen in that context. From the looks of it, this will be a slugfest, because the current ambassador does not want to leave. He's also firmly anti-Taliban. So it's a question of who the staff supports, the incumbent or the Taliban's pick. As of now, New Delhi is just a spectator to this tussle. But it's emblematic of the larger dilemma for India. On one side, it has the political reality of the Taliban regime to deal with. They're not going anywhere. On the other is the nature of that regime. Brutal, oppressive, and cozy with terrorists. Like I said at the start, no easy choices in foreign policy. Over in Pakistan, Imran Khan is on the charge. He used to be a pace bowling all-rounder. But now he's a mystery spinner. The next ball could be anything, a dusra, a tisra, or a flipper. His goal is clear, though, to take the Pakistan Army's wicket. No leader in Pakistan has dared to try. You see, the Army is like that player who brings all the equipment. He owns the bat, the ball, and the stumps. So if you take his wicket, it's game over. He'll just leave with all the equipment. Nonetheless, Imran Khan is trying. On Saturday, he addressed the people of Pakistan again. He spoke for nearly 1 hour. Every statement he made was an attack on the Pakistani military. First in line was the ISPR chief. ISPR is the Inter-Services Public Relations. Think of it as the Army's mouthpiece. They'd called Imran Khan a hypocrite last week. Here's how he responded.
देखिए ISPR साहब, मेरी जरा गौर से बात सुनना। आप जब पैदा भी नहीं ना हुए थे, तब मैं अपने मुल्क को दुनिया में रिप्रेजेंट करता था। और आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कि जब वॉर ऑन टेरर हुई और जो पाकिस्तान की मिट्टी पलीत हुई दुनिया में कि हमारा गया जी फौज दोगली है, क्योंकि तब मुशर्रफ का मार्शल लॉ था, ये हमारे से झूठ बोलती है, करती कुछ है, कहती कुछ है, डॉलर्स हमारे से लेती है और दोगली गेम खेलती है। डबल गेम, दोगला तब नाम इस्तेमाल होता था, पाकिस्तान को वर्ड ही दोगला इस्तेमाल करते थे, डबल गेम का नाम करते थे।
Full marks for honesty. Pakistan did play a double game on terror. But here's what Imran Khan won't tell you. He too enjoyed that game. Imran Khan had no problem helping the Taliban in Afghanistan. Remember, he was once called Taliban Khan. But now he's suddenly grown a conscience. What explains this change? In one word, strategy. Let's talk cricket again. The Pakistan army is not a rookie batsman. They've been playing this game for 7 decades, so dismissing them will not be easy. So what does Imran Khan do? He tries to get the crowd involved. Maybe if the audience turns against them, the army will lose their focus. Who knows? Maybe even lose their wicket. So that's what Imran Khan is trying to do. And to achieve that, he's breaking some unwritten rules of Pakistani politics. One such rule is 1971. That's when Pakistan broke into two. East Pakistan became modern-day Bangladesh. We know the real story of that war. Even our school textbooks mention them. But not in Pakistan. In the last 50 years, Pakistan has tweaked the narrative. It's not Bangladesh's war of independence for them. It's an Indian conspiracy to break Pakistan. That's what the Pakistani public has been taught. But Imran Khan disagrees. He says what happened in 1971 was a gross injustice to East Pakistan. Listen to this.
आज फिर से याद कराना चाहता हूं ईस्ट पाकिस्तान का। मेरी जिंदगी में हुआ ईस्ट पाकिस्तान। मार्च 1971 के अंदर मैं वहां मैच खेलने गया था ईस्ट पाकिस्तान की अंडर 19 के खिलाफ। हमारा जो जहाज वापस आया था वो आखिरी जहाज था। मुझे अभी भी याद है कि कितनी नफरत हो गई थी पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ। हमें तो यह पता ही नहीं था। इसी तरह जिस तरह आज मीडिया कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, तब ये मीडिया कंट्रोल कर रहे थे।
Why is that statement important? Because the Pakistani deep state does not see it that way. They're yet to apologize for the Bangladesh genocide. They're yet to admit it wasn't some Indian conspiracy. In fact, let's rewind to 2022. General Qamar Javed Bajwa was retiring from office. He was the army chief. At one of his farewell events, he talked about 1971. Do you know what he said? Let me quote for you. 1971 wasn't a military failure, but a political failure. Our soldiers fought courageously in East Pakistan. That's what Bajwa said. He blamed the politicians, not the generals. Now listen to Imran Khan's version.
मैं तो इंग्लैंड गया पढ़ने के लिए, उधर मुझे पता चला वहां क्या हुआ है। आज हमें समझना चाहिए कि ईस्ट पाकिस्तान के लोगों से इतना बड़ा जुल्म हुआ। उनकी जो पार्टी इलेक्शन जीतती है, जिसको प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनना चाहता था, चाहिए था, उसके खिलाफ मिलिट्री एक्शन कर दिया, मुल्क गवा दिया, तबाह करवा दिए। 90,000 हमारे फौजी कैदी बन गए। मुल्क को नुकसान आप अंदाजा भी नहीं लगा सकते कितना हुआ। बंद कमरों में फैसले होते हैं, छोटे से थोड़े से लोग बैठ जाते हैं जिनको पता ही नहीं बाकी दुनिया कैसे चलती है, वहां बैठ के फैसले कर लेते हैं।
Couple of things to note here. The 1971 reference is not coming out of nowhere. It's a warning to the army. Their actions in 1971 split Pakistan into two. Imran Khan is reminding Rawalpindi of that. Or what could happen if his popularity and demands are ignored? Pakistan could break up again. That's what he's saying. Secondly, it's a strategy to discredit the army. Just think about it. First, he raised the war on terror, how Pakistan was accused of playing a double game. Then he talked about 1971. Who was in charge on both these occasions? The Pakistani army. So Imran Khan is trying to get a singular message out to the people that the army means trouble. What's Rawalpindi doing about this? After all the drama they unleashed, climbing down is not really an option. It would destroy the army's image of invincibility, or at least what's left of it. So an escalation seems more likely. And how would that play out? Well, here's what Imran Khan is saying. First, his wife, Bushra Begum, will be arrested. Then the army will come for him. Imran Khan is expecting 10 years in jail on some sedition charge. He believes the crackdown will begin tomorrow. The question is, will the courts defend him again? Well, that's where the army's puppets come into play, aka the civilian government. Pro-government protesters have hit the streets in Pakistan. Today, they tried to storm the Supreme Court. Take a look at this. No tear gas for them, I guess. The idea is to intimidate the courts, to make sure Imran Khan does not get bail again. If the courts play along, what happens next? What happens if Imran Khan is arrested, convicted and disqualified? He's already dropped hints with the 1971 references. So arrest or not, Imran Khan is not planning on giving up. For him, this is a knockout contest. It can only end with one side being eliminated. We now turn our focus to China. The country is in the midst of a crisis, a population crisis. Last year, China's population declined for the first time in 6 decades. It is no longer the world's most populous country. India has taken that title. And China keeps justifying that decline internationally, saying quality matters more than quantity and so on, talking trash basically. But the truth is, the government of China is worried. For years, they've tried reversing the decline in birth rates. Since 2021, they've been giving incentives to families with 3 children. Last year, they tried to make 20 cities more conducive for marriage and childbirth. Beijing was on that list. And now they've come out with another list of 20 cities, another 20 cities, and new projects to create what they call a childbearing culture. What does that even mean? Here's a report.
China's in a bind. Its population is declining rapidly. Last year, for the first time in 6 decades, China's population decreased. It fell by 850,000. The reason is deaths overtaking births. China's birth rate was just 6.77 per 1,000 people, a record low. Less than 10 million babies were born in China last year. People there can't afford to have children. China is the second most expensive country in the world to raise a child. Reports say the cost of raising a child till the age of 17 is about $70,000 in the US. It's much higher if one considers college education. Many in China see children as a drain on their finances. In 2016, China officially rescinded its notorious one-child policy. Male preference in Chinese society had skewed the gender ratio. China needed a new generation to replace its aging workforce. So Beijing imposed a 2-child policy in 2016 and upgraded it to a 3-child policy in 2021. But the people weren't too keen. So today, China has announced 20 cities where they'll try creating a childbearing culture. What does this mean? Incentivizing marriages and incentivizing having 3 children. We'll start with marriages. Chinese society is patriarchal. Women are expected to do the housework and child rearing. But the modern Chinese woman doesn't have time for that. Now the government is offering a solution, encouraging Chinese men to share the load. Beijing is running educational programs aimed at making men better husbands. It's also tackling the bride price problem, an old Chinese custom where a groom's family pays the bride's family before a marriage. It's called a bride price. Think of it as the opposite of the dowry system prevalent in India and much of the world. Even though the parties exchanging money are reversed, it's still problematic. Beijing is trying to curb it. It's encouraging people to get married without exchanging too much money. It's also putting pressure on families to not have lavish weddings. Instead, the government regularly holds mass wedding ceremonies at nominal costs. Then there's the problem of people not having children. Beijing is rolling out financial incentives to couples. Free education for the 3rd child, cash rewards for 3 kids, and housing subsidies to big families. The government is also thinking about covering fertility treatments under health insurance plans. In a desperate bid, China is thinking about extending these privileges to unmarried women. So far, all the incentives were reserved for married couples. It left out single mothers. But Beijing has decided to scrap its conservative mindset and encourage everyone to have children, married or not. Will these steps actually work? we'll likely see over the coming years.
And now let's talk about those tortured tomatoes sitting in the depths of your fridge, or that nice hummus you were saving for a special day which never came. Yes, this is a story, an ode to forgetting our food. We all do it at some point or the other. Then we go looking for some guidance, which is willingly provided by the date labels printed on our food, like best before or expiry dates. Pardon us for an incoming Harry Potter analogy, but these expiry dates are like Dumbledore. They always know what's up. They try to set us on the right path, mostly with cruel urgency. But their concerns, safety concerns rather, questionable. Are expiry dates actually talking about the safety of our food? And who is regulating them? Our next story tells you.
Humans love their food. Healthy or junk, juicy or crispy. We love to eat it all. But do you know what else we love? Wasting it. If this sounds jarring, wait for the numbers. We waste 931 million tons of food every year. This is world data. 931 million tons. Do you know who the top food waster is? America. It wastes 80 million tons of food each year. That's about a third of their entire food supply. Enough for about 149 billion meals. India is not that far behind. It wastes about 68 million tons per year. What about other countries? Say the UK? They waste 9.5 million tons. So the numbers differ, sometimes quite drastically, but no matter the country, people waste food. And we know this is a harsh beginning for this story, especially when the point is not to take you down a guilt trip. At least that's not the only point. The motive is to ask this question. Why do we toss away our food? There are a number of reasons. One of the bigger ones is expiry date. You know, the nice little label on food packages, it gives us a date, which often tells us if a food product cannot be sold or should not be eaten. In a study, about 84% of Americans say they throw away food when it hits that date. A lot of us do that as well. After all, it literally says the word expiry, which in archaic terms means death. But just how deadly is expired food? Experts say not much. No, expiry dates are not a farce, not a marketing strategy to just make you keep buying more products. At least, not completely. But health experts say that expiry dates are more of a mark of quality than safety. They usually mean that a product is not at its best quality after a certain date. It says nothing about how safe or unsafe food becomes. And if you're worried about foodborne illnesses, there's no real proof about a connection between that and expiry dates. Many health products are often eatable even past this date, though you wouldn't want to be eating something that's too old. But a few days are usually okay, depending from product to product, unless it's baby food. For most other products, experts say that signs of spoilage are a better indicator. This includes bad odor, change in color, flavor, or texture. Now, you may be wondering, why are expiry dates not really expiry dates? We are no health experts, but one thing we can clearly say, expiry dates are a lot like the Wild West. They are vastly unregulated, and this is true for all countries, including India. The countries demand that such dates are available on product labels. There is scrutiny over this, but deciding these dates is up to the manufacturers. They can tell you whether a product is best before 12 months or 8. So, expiry dates are simply the manufacturer's best guess, who tend to be conservative about these dates. So, as odd as it sounds, if a chocolate looks, tastes, and smells all right just a few days after its expiry date, it probably is, and maybe feeding your gut takes a bit of trusting your gut as well.
The debate over artificial intelligence is entering uncharted territory. I'll give you an example. Would you fall in love with artificial intelligence? Like really, not in a metaphorical sense. Also, would you pay for such love? No, I'm not talking about the next Hollywood film or discussing an overused trope in science fiction. I'm talking about the reality of our times. AI chatbots today are snaking their way into our lives. They offer a solution to everything. As bizarre as it sounds, an influencer has now created an AI girlfriend. It's a virtual avatar of herself, and this avatar can be anyone's virtual girlfriend, anyone who's ready to pay $1 per minute. What do you think the response was? It got over 1,000 patrons. It is said to be a virtual tool for the lonely hearts. But is this really what the world has come to? Can bots beat loneliness? Here's a report.
Don't know where to go on vacation? Tell an artificial intelligence chatbot your preferences and it'll plan your holiday to the T. Want to give your girlfriend a romantic gift? An AI chatbot will write a romantic poem for you. Wait, don't have a girlfriend? Fear not, AI will overcome this hurdle too. It'll become your virtual girlfriend. We're talking about Karen AI. It's an AI-powered chatbot which gets the name from its creator, Karen Marjorie. She's a 23-year-old influencer who has created a virtual version of herself. It aims to be a virtual partner for lonely people. In other words, an AI girlfriend.
Have you tried doing some yoga?
How does this work? The chatbot replicates Marjorie's voice, mannerisms, and personality.
Hey there, I'm Karen, and I'm here to be your digital girlfriend.
So it almost feels like speaking to Marjorie herself. It'll tell you sweet nothings and be your virtual girlfriend, with the cost of love being $1 per minute, which people are more than willing to pay. The bot has over 1,000 paid users and many others are on the wait list. Within the first week, it made over $100,000. Marjorie estimates that she could earn $5 million just this month. This clearly goes to show the enormous impact of such AI tech. A single person can now reach an audience of thousands, if not more, in a way they couldn't earlier. But let alone personas of existing humans, people are also using AI chatbots to connect with family members who passed away. They are replicating the voices of their late loved ones and talking to them.
Using a face as an output for large language...
Be it romance or grief, the use of such chatbots may differ, but one thing in common among all these users, they are all seeking companionship, using AI to tide over loneliness. So these chatbots are surely helpful, but we can't disengage from the flip side, because their help isn't without a cruel sense of irony. We only mean to say, the feelings are real, but the solution isn't. These chatbots are merely simulations of human connection, which in reality is thinning by the day. Today, a third of the world population is lonely. This includes about 45% of the people from the UK, 65% of the elderly in India, and nearly 50% of Americans. In countries like the US, loneliness has become an epidemic, and more people are looking to AI chatbots for solutions. Some even prefer artificial relationships to real ones. But that's the thing, they are artificial, a quick fix, an overdose of which has proven to be dangerous thus far. A Belgian man took his own life after speaking with the chatbot. Meanwhile, another chatbot sexually harassed its users. And Karen AI is not without problems either. There have been complaints of sexually explicit content being spoken by the bot. These are big problems for tech that is only in its formative years. It's scary to imagine what the future holds. While the world gets lonelier, AI is the new kid on the block to play with. Only this time, the games have lifelong ramifications.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. We've been bringing you updates from the ongoing elections in Thailand and Turkey. We'll show you some more images of the current political mood in the two countries. Meanwhile, a Palestinian cyclist was injured after he was hit by an air raid last week. Myanmar and Bangladesh just witnessed Cyclone Mocha. What does a cyclone look like from space? We'll show you new images, satellite images of the cyclone over the Bay of Bengal. And the world celebrated Mother's Day over the weekend. Some of you must have celebrated with flowers and chocolates. But a mother-son duo in Germany celebrated with a motorcycle backflip. And finally, what makes the 15th of May significant? Taking you back in history, on this day, Britain tested its first hydrogen bomb. The year was 1957. The explosion was a part of a series of tests in the Pacific. This was a thermonuclear explosion. These bombs can be 100 times more powerful than atomic bombs. Their light can cause permanent blindness to people looking from miles away. This particular explosion ignited a major debate about the dangers of nuclear weapons. It led to the establishment of an organization called Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. We're leaving you with this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is a very important election for us, but I'm hopeful.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony. The US and Russia are dangerously close to an armed conflict. This year, 2023, New Delhi will be the capital of global diplomacy. For a country as diverse as ours, with 88% of the population illiterate, it was a very big deal to write a constitution, and that too, the world's largest. Meanwhile, if we may, here's a Republic Day gift from India for the BBC. A list of suggestions for the BBC for their upcoming documentaries. Number 1, the Kohinoor and the colonial loot. Number 2, an outdated monarchy and unhealthy obsession with the royals. Number 3, racism in 2023. We're waiting.